Hey, I'm Lauren and I'm going to show you how to make lefse. So first we're going to go through everything you need and then we'll get baking. So the first thing that you really need to make lefse is this stick because it's really thin, long, and tapered, and it makes it easy to slide it under the sheets of lefse and flip them over when you're grilling them. And then to roll out really nice thin sheets of lefse, a pastry board with a cloth on it, and a rolling pin with a rolling pin cover. And these are great because they hold a little bit of flour. For your potatoes, I recommend a potato ricer. It gets them a lot more even than mashing. And this one I really like because it has super good leverage. It also has this plate that you can take out and clean it really easy. And it doesn't bend and break like I've had happen with some of the metal ones. All right, and then another thing that's on the list, but this is a nice to have, not a need to have, is a Lefse Griddle. So if you don't have one of these, you can do it on a stovetop on like a pancake griddle. But this is better because you can get a bigger sheet, it's easier to flip them, and they'll cook a lot more evenly. Below the video, there are links to all of my favorite tools for making lefse. All right, the ingredients are super simple: potatoes, butter, heavy cream, a little bit of salt and sugar, and a lot of flour. There's a recipe linked below that'll take you to all the quantities of those two. So butter, you really want full fat butter. I like European butter, grass-fed butter, because it's a little bit sweeter, has a higher fat content. So a couple of things that are really important when you're making lefse is making sure that you have enough fat so that it can really get rolled thin, you know, so that that dough is super stretchy. And then on your heavy cream, don't skimp on that either. So you really want full fat, heavy whipping cream for your lefse. For potatoes, russet potatoes, they have a high starch content and low moisture content. There are a couple things that are really enemies of making lefse, and that's lumps in your dough and moisture of any kind. So we're really going to work to make sure that we get all the moisture out of our potatoes after boiling them. And to make sure that you get a nice even dough, that's where I say potato ricer is really great to make sure that you get an even mash on your potatoes. All right, so my potatoes are washed and I'm going to peel them and get them ready to boil. So when you're peeling the potatoes, you really want to make sure that if they have any eyes or hard nodules in them, that you're cutting those out. So here's an example of this hard knot that's in there. I'm gonna cut that out because what you don't want is to have that become a hard lump in your lefse when you're trying to roll it out. Then once you've got it peeled, cube it up into nice, even, small slices so that it'll boil more evenly. And then I put these into a pot of water so that my potatoes don't start to brown as I'm working through the rest of them. All right, once they've boiled for maybe about 15 minutes, make sure that they're tender when you poke them with a fork, but these look pretty good. So now we're gonna strain them. While your potatoes are still pretty warm, you're gonna wanna rice them. This potato ricer is really nice because it has this clip on the front side that I can use to rest it on the bowl and really press down on it. And I'm just gonna throw it back in my pot to mix. So to 4 cups, I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of butter that I've cubed up pretty small. And then everything else that we're gonna add in, which would be sugar, flour, a little bit of salt. We'll do that tomorrow. I spread them in a pan and I leave it on the counter for a couple hours to cool, and then I put it in the fridge overnight. And that's so that we get all the moisture to steam off of the potatoes. So we want them nice and dry. Today we're gonna mix up the dough. The potatoes sat in the fridge overnight to get rid of all the extra moisture. And then I sift it to make sure that we don't have any lumps of flour that go into the dough. And then we'll mix it up really good with the mixer. So once you start grilling the lefse, it's nice to be able to work really fast. So I like to pre-portion my dough and then I keep it in the fridge until I'm ready to go, and I just pull out a couple patties at a time. One thing you might know if you've worked with other pastry dough is that keeping pastry dough really cold is a key to getting it to roll out nice and thin. So the size pieces that I like to work with are a little bit bigger than a golf ball. And so I'll roll them up. You can see about how big that is. And then I just kind of patty them out and I'll stack them back in the pan. And then I'll put this pan back in the fridge. Because making lefse is a lot of work, I always make my husband help too. When working with a pastry board and a rolling pin with a cover, you want to make sure that you have flour worked into all of the surfaces. So I like to keep a couple extra cups of flour on hand, and I'll start by just working it right in. And make sure that you cover a surface big enough for the size lefse that you're going to roll out. And then while you're working on the lefse, you're going to want to keep adding more and more flour to make sure that this stays really coated the whole time. And the same thing with your rolling pin cover. So you're just going to sprinkle and push flour right into the cover. So I usually reflour everything in between rolling out each sheet of lefse. So I have my patty right out of the fridge, and I'm going to start by flouring the surface just a little bit and getting just an even dusting kind of over this whole disc. And we just want to make sure that it stays really, really slippy the whole time that we're rolling it out. If it starts to feel a little sticky, just take a little flour and just dust it on there. Okay, when you start to be able to see through your lefse, you know you're getting it thin enough. And so to pick it up off the board, you're gonna take your stick and just really gently slide it right down the middle. And then make sure that you go back and forth the entire width of the sheet to make sure that it's loosened. Probably cooks for about 45 seconds on the first side and maybe another 30 seconds on the second side.